So do you remember that movie that started out with a picture that everyone wanted to laugh at? And then after that, we were told over and over again, nah, you don't understand. This movie, it's going to be a raging success, and if you don't like it, you're a... Well, that movie that went from a raging success, one that was going to reinvigorate a franchise that again turned into a smaller success that was going to be modest and make back its money, yeah, it went on a downhill slide, and it looks like it's not going to be returning. Terminator Dark Fate, the thing that killed the Terminator franchise. So hey there, and before we continue, if you like this kind of content, make sure you're subbed to the channel, hitting that bell for daily notifications, and if you want to go further, well, check out the links in the description. One of those is The Case of the Littlest Umbrella. It's our initial foray into comic books, and it definitely helps out in a time when, well, good editing apparently is against the rules. Check that out. It closes at the end of November. Appreciate you there. Over the last few years, it seems like specific movie franchises have totally lost the plot. When I say lost the plot, I may mean plot details within storylines, but more often than not, what I'm talking about is forgetting their audience, period. If you look at certain cases like, say, Ghostbusters 2016, or even the newer installations of Star Wars franchise, you can see that there's a certain shrill crowd that's being listened to, and at the expense of the people that will show up and actually participate and enjoy your movies. Now, what that leads to is what we've just seen, the Terminator effect, where essentially a movie terminates an entire franchise, the hopes and dreams of continuing because, again, you forgot exactly who goes out and buys this stuff. Now, there was a solid article that talked about this called Terminator Dark Fate's Toxic Marketing Campaign that came out in August, well before we saw movies, and I have to say that this resonated with me. Why? Well, look at the image here. You would see people talking about how Terminator fans, they weren't true fans because that comes up in a lot of other things too. You would also see "ist" tagged to it because you're an ist or you're a phobe. If haters, oh my God, haters, or the new descriptor, I to the N to the CEL. They love throwing that on. I mean, look at the Joker. Then you would see descriptors like poisonous added, or trolls, or again, naysayers, or toxic, or you're just bad fans, or worse yet, you're alt, what's that word again? Oh yeah, and that stuff, it impacts the bottom line. They may think that it works for marketing, maybe in a specific bubble out there they get applauded, like say in Hollywood or like say on certain outlets, but in the real world, that doesn't work out at all. Now, part of the reason for failure is the ineptitude of the audience that, well, they get in for free, number one, when we're talking about critics, but they don't understand the box office game. They don't have to. They have nothing tied to it. In fact, they don't enjoy most of these movies anyhow. But you look at this, you look at that article, and also with this article, I want you to keep something in mind. When you go and hunt this down, a lot of the links have actually been changed to it. It will link to something that rectifies the fact that they were giving this positive praise, but look at how this reads early on. Terminator Dark Fate loads up 2.4 million on Halloween night. Loads up. We're talking about, man, they're doing good here. They're making positive sales. They're generating buzz. You can see that as well when they're talking about the on par evaluation. Like, this is going to go out and it's actually going to do something. Again, positive. They think that this is doing great. They have somebody come in and say, hey, this is tracking to do 10 million. That's not a box office success. And that's exactly right. When you look at what this movie needs to make, when you're talking about $185 million plus another $100 million in advertisement, yeah, you got some problems. You got some big problems. Now, another thing that exacerbates frustration is the way that blowback is perceived. Take this article here, for example. I mean, look at the title, first of all. And this is from Tim Miller. He's aiming it at people that, well, well. If you look at some of the videos out there, they may be complaining about the early posters and the way that this looks like it's going to go forward, but also they have posters on their walls. They have Terminator busts. These are people that are invested in the success of the franchise. So looking at this, Terminator Dark Fate director drops F-bomb about ist trolls. You notice the descriptors there. Ist, right off the bat, and then trolls. You're not only diminishing their arguments, but you're diminishing them. And again, going back to what we talked about before, says plenty about the way that you view the people that you need for success. Then you look at this other stuff, talking about, again, this was aimed at Mackenzie Davis. So he said about the character, if you're at all enlightened, she'll play like gangbusters. But if you're a closeted, see that type of ist here, she'll scare the F out of you because she's tough and strong, but very feminine. We do not trade certain gender traits for others. She's just very strong, and that frightens some dudes. You can see online the responses to some of the early out there and trolls on the internet. I don't give an F. All right. Well, I wonder if you do now when you're tracking as lowly as you have. Maybe. I don't know. Just maybe you should have listened to those people and told them, hey, if you don't like it, don't buy it, because you know what? People won't. When it comes to buying, too, if we look at the expectation versus the reality of this movie, we can go back to September and actually see this narrative start to approach. Terminator Dark Fate tracking for soft debut, but it's going to do better than Genesis. Many people, they came out and they were shooting this budget between 35 to 45 million, but there were some people that were even tracking higher than that. There was this anticipation of buzz. It wasn't showcased anywhere, but still, people were going to get into it. And this continued forward too. If you look into October, you can still see people saying Terminator Dark Fate. This is targeting a $40 million plus box office opening, according to the early box office forecasts. They would go through all of the movies that have been attached to this, and you're talking about big names with this, with, of course, Linda Hamilton coming in. You have Arnold Schwarzenegger being attached to this. You have James Cameron attached to it too, and Tim Miller. Everybody was supposed to be excited about that. And people overseas, they were supposed to be excited about it too. Plus, you had the San Diego Comic-Con buzz that was coming up, and man, that was supposed to give people. Now, the advertising expenditure on this movie, it was egregious. I mean, look at this from Variety, October 29th, 2019. This is entitled Terminator Dark Fate, again, top studio TV ad spending, and it talks about numbers coming from October 21st through October 27th. So this is a small amount of time here, and apparently in that, there were $7.8 million worth of ads taken out for this movie alone, with 1,071 national ads playing over 36 networks. I mean, think about that. Think about how much money that you're throwing out there so people will see this. And then when you're opening up here, you have an opening week and you barely top that amount of money. Something's not only wrong, it's terribly wrong. I mean, it's like you just missed the mark totally, right? Now, with regard to how far the Terminator has been off, this should give you an example. You can see this Forbes article, and the thing that sticks out right away, there's a certain descriptor here, bombs. If bombs is associated with your product and you're not at war with someone, if you're not Nicolas Cage and you're not the Lord of War, yeah, you have a problem out there. You have a huge problem. Box office, Terminator bombs again as Dark Fate nabs apocalyptic $11 million Friday. I mean, you talk about that estimate that people were discussing, where exactly Terminator needed to fare. And again, those numbers that were coming up, that was about success. You know, if you were making $40 million, you could earn your money back. But looking at this here, this should give you an idea. Terminator Dark Fate should earn a $26.7 million opening weekend, or less than the $29 million Friday through Sunday debut of Alita: Battle Angel. Depending on its legs, it'll open over under the 27 million Friday through Sunday launch of Terminator Genesis. Yes, that's between the 33 million debut of Dark Phoenix and the 25 million launch of the Fantastic Four reboots. Those unrequested brand exploits also seem to make all the wrong choices leading up to the release. So you're talking about something that has made a lot of mistakes. While X-Men Apocalypse earned $122 million in China, Dark Phoenix was rejected with just $65 million. Sure enough, the $113 million earned by Terminator Genesis from a $26 million opening day at the end of the blackout period meant diddly, as Dark Fate is heading toward $24 million opening weekend and under $55 million total in China after a $9.45 million Friday. You notice that there. This is not only bombing, but it's bombing globally. $9.45 million earned Friday there. Now, giving credit where credit's due, this name, it actually works out very well. Terminator Dark Fate, because this is a dark fate for the franchise. I hate to see it go down like this, but it's a worldwide catastrophe. The media knows it. The people who made it know it. They would pull the plug, but they can't. Instead, they're going out telling you why you want this movie, and it's for all the wrong reasons. It should be because it's a good Terminator movie, because it's an enjoyable addition to the franchise. But no, not that. And if you don't like it, well, then you're But anyway, you tell me what you think about this stuff, and well, are you surprised? I'm not, but are you? Thanks.